organically, over centuries, unlike most Roman outposts, which were planned cities. But Rome did serve as a model in many other ways. The perfect city, Romans believed, always had the same key elements: temples, theaters, baths, roads, and outdoor public spaces. Of course, you needed a marketplace, and most certainly a brothel. A traditional sign, such as this one in the African city of Bulla Regia, pointed the way for visitors. Almost without fail, in a city of importance, there was at least one amphitheater. Still the most recognized symbol of the empire, the famous Colosseum in Rome was the model for hundreds of amphitheaters throughout the provinces.
The Egyptians left tombs behind, the pyramids. We think of that immediately. We think of Greek temples. But the Romans, I think the most famous things that they left behind probably were the stadiums. The Colosseum, the Circus Maximus, and also other stadiums around the empire. And that's what we have as our cathedrals today. And any city that wants to really call itself a city now doesn't build a skyscraper and doesn't build a place of worship, builds a stadium. In that sense, we're more connected with the Romans than I think in any other.
There was a good reason arenas were so monumentally important, for here was the true heart and soul of empire.
It's a very good way to look at the games as a reflection of the ideals of empire. The gladiators are there to display their courage, their bravery in front of the crowds. Beast hunts. What kind of person is able to bring a hippopotamus from Africa and put it on display in Rome? What kind of person is able to take lions from one part of the empire and put them on in another? The emperor not only controls people, but he controls all of nature.
A typical day at the arena began with a beast hunt in the morning. Lions, tigers, bears, the more exotic the better, were pitted against men specially trained for the job. Hundreds of animals at a time would die before roaring crowds, despite a few faint voices of dissent.
What pleasure can a civilized mind find when a magnificent animal is stabbed again and again with a hunting spear? Cicero.
At midday, criminals were put to death. Crucifixion and burning at the stake were common punishments, but crowds seemed to prefer the sentence of damnatio ad bestias, condemned to the beasts. Terrified animals attacked prisoners chained to posts or bound up with fresh meat. Finally, afternoon to sunset brought the day's main event, the gladiators.
It's very difficult for people who admire the Romans and the glory of Rome and all that to come to terms with the fact that Romans were prepared to sit round and watch people kill each other. The explanation, I think, is that even the poorest Roman citizen got some sense of a lift out of feeling, well, at least I'm not like that. It was a way of expressing the other, of getting a feeling that there is a world out there that is different from civilization.
Most gladiators were criminals, slaves, or prisoners of war, specially trained to fight in the arena. If they fought bravely and kept winning, they even stood a small chance of gaining their freedom. Not quite as many died in these combats as Hollywood supposed, but there was always a pile of corpses to be hauled away at day's end. The stench of death was so overpowering in the arenas that specially installed sprinkler systems sprayed perfume into the audience. In time, the foul odor of Roman decadence would grow harder to disguise. Lands that were once Roman are today divided among more than 40 nations. From the Atlantic to the Euphrates, from the Sahara to Scotland, more than 2 million square miles. Romans built a stunning network, 53,000 miles of paved roads connecting the empire. Roman roads put end to end would have circled the earth twice. And they were so well built, many survive to this day with the original paving stones. Like the American interstate system, Roman roads made it possible to defend a huge territory. The endless byways also accommodated tax collectors, traders, and messengers as they traveled from exotic Egypt all the way to the hostile Scottish Moors. A fast courier could travel nearly 200 miles in a day. The army could reach anywhere in the empire in a matter of weeks. The march from Rome to Spain was said to take just 27 days. The phenomenon of Roman roads explains much about how Rome spread her influence around the world, and even across the centuries to our own time. From the ruts carved into ancient roads by chariot wheels 2,000 years ago, we get the modern railway gauge for American and European trains. Wherever 3 major roads crossed, news was often posted for travelers. The Latin word for such a crossroads was tri-via, or trivia, literally a 3-road junction. Roads also carried Roman culture throughout the empire.
We think of the spread of Roman culture akin to the spread of blue jeans and McDonald's. I think we're looking at it very much the right way. Why is it now that we have football being played in Europe? Or just look at the way the NBA is able to export itself. Michael Jordan as Virgil. I think there is a certain amount of connection here. That's the best analogy, I think, for the spread of Greco-Roman culture, and people could resent it in just the same way they resent Americanization now.
How you felt about the domination of Roman culture probably had everything to do with your lot in life. The majority of Roman subjects were farmers, whose lives may have changed little under Roman rule.
The Roman Empire and Romanization, this use of Latin language is the creation of city cultures, straight roads, Roman dress, the toga, and so on, is in fact very superficial. Beneath it, in many societies, remained a local native culture. And when the Roman Empire breaks down, for example in Roman Britain, what very quickly re-emerges is that native culture that has always been there.
On the other hand, if you were wealthy and lived in a provincial city like Bulla Regia or Londinium or Trier, you were in a position to enjoy the vast luxuries of empire. Buildings, roads, bridges, commerce, and protection, all courtesy of the conquering Romans, made life in a provincial city quite a bit more comfortable and healthy. Romans enjoyed a technology boom unprecedented in ancient times. Their ingenuity brought the world everything from a 2-cylinder pump used for firefighting to sophisticated weaponry, a rotary flour mill, water-powered machinery, pipe organs, padlocks, lightning rods, and even elevators. But of all the wonders Rome brought to the world, to the common man, perhaps the greatest luxury of all was fresh, clean, running water. spectacular and brilliantly designed Roman aqueducts brought a continuous flow of water out of the mountains and into town. Sophisticated engineering built an ingeniously simple structure, graded ever so gently, so gravity did all the work. Thus, millions of gallons moved hundreds of miles to the spot where they'd be used, all without need of fossil fuel, electric pumps, or human effort. Some ancient cities had 2 to 3 times as much water per person as many cities today. The aqueduct was a feat of engineering so impressive